This is Making the Cut Mini, and I'm your host, Marcus Mook Washington. To the shock of no one, LeVar Ball has found a way to get back in the news. This time around, it's that he is going to take his youngest son and homeschool him and take him out of Chino Hills, which, if I was the new coach of Chino Hills, I think I might be a little bit relieved by this. The amount of pressure after LeVar allegedly forced the last coach out might have been too much for a new coach to bear. So it might not be the worst thing in the world, depending on who else is on that team and that roster. I'm not familiar enough with the roster to know how Chino Hills will respond to not having LaMelo on that team. But I do think that they probably have enough talent to be competitive, maybe not as competitive without Melo. But from a coach's perspective, getting kids to buy in, maybe putting in a system you would like to put in, that might be a little easier without the balls coming, standing over you. But what has really made me want to talk about this today is because there was an article in the USA Today saying now that LeVar Ball is the worst parent. He's the next Marinovich dad, and his kids are going to end up hating him, and they're going to regret him, regret it down the line, so on and so forth. To which I say, pump your brakes. First and foremost, I always feel a little uncomfortable when people try to tell other people how to parent. I don't think that any of us want someone else to tell us how to parent, and you best believe that if someone else came into your house and saw how you were doing things, how you taught things, and maybe your mindset, they might say that they didn't think that you were a good parent. Parent is an individual thing. You have to. There are family traditions. Everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone's parenting style is different. In no way is LeVar being abusive towards his kids. That would be a bird of a different feather. He's not Adrian Peterson, to give you an example. He's someone who has, over the last few months, has found himself to be a very unpopular figure. And just like people like the Kardashians or Floyd Mayweather Jr., they have looked to take their unpopularity combined with their popularity and make it lucrative, or at the very least, make it a moneymaker. In fact, you might say that LeVar Ball is actually the American dream. He has taken whatever talent he has, what sort of ingenuity he has, and he's actually made it into a brand. And that's something that you can't take away from him. Now, I was one of those ones who said $495 for a shoe from this clown. Are you kidding me? No way. Is anyone going to pay that? With that being said, the idea that we do live in a country that would give someone like LeVar Ball a chance at it shows you that the system actually is working. And the idea that he was trying it never, ever, ever put me off. The idea sometimes that the way he went about it is what put me off. But that still has nothing to do with his parenting skills. It also has nothing to do with him taking LaMelo out of school. I know several people whose kids are homeschooled. And one of the things they hate is the old stereotypes of being homeschooled. That your kid's a shut-in, he or she is not going to be prepared socially. It's some sort of, a bunch of wackadoodles trying to skirt the academic system, so on and so forth. Those are stereotypes that have long since died. There are stereotypes that, came from people who, because they didn't agree with the idea of homeschooling, they attacked it with every wild accusation that they could attack it with. And I thought we had moved past that until the whole LeVar Ball incident. And now all of a sudden, we are predicting doom and death for his son, which I will say, be careful, because even though people conveniently forget, remember, everyone predicted doom and death for LeBron James when he got the Hummer. Remember that? He was going to be a failure. He's what's wrong with America. He's what's wrong with this entitled generation. You wait, he's going to be an American tragedy. Last time I checked, LeBron's looking like he's fine. So let's calm down on other people's parenting skills or how you perceive their parenting skills when you certainly don't want your parenting skills under the same scrutiny. I will say this, though. This is another mark on high school basketball and how the landscape is that people feel like that they can circumvent high school's basketball system and still get a Division I scholarship. And that is growing and growing and growing. And I will say, don't blame LeVar Ball for that. You have to blame parents as a whole for that. Having been a high school basketball coach, parents always want to say that they could have a system to do it their way, and somehow the coaches are being unfair, or they're being biased, or they're being this, they're being that. AAU has grown into their own system, and it's a cesspool of corruption. It's a cesspool of me first parents. Not even the kids, me first parents. These parents, the same parents who are complaining about LeVar Ball, are the parents who created, LeVar Ball. When I was in school, and this was in the 80s, and I played high school basketball, I knew I wasn't good enough to play AAU because AAU was thought of as the upper echelon players. Now the same parents who complain about the everyone gets a trophy generation has turned AAU into, my kid can't make an AAU team, so let me pay to buy to have a team because it will be unfair if Jerome is on an AAU team and my kid isn't. Sounds a lot like everyone should have a trophy now, doesn't it? The same people who say that the millennials are self-absorbed because they think they're entitled are the same parents who built the AAU system to be where it is, where they are the ones feeling entitled for their child. Like their child would be cheated just because their child was not good enough to play on an AAU team. But yes, the millennials are the ones with the problems and everyone gets a trophy. LeVar Ball was created by the same people who actually complain about him every day. And if we had just left AAU alone and understood that AAU was for the upper echelon kids, and then what would there be to worry? But the parents have turned this into a complete circus to circumvent the academic process of your kid playing for the school, your kid having to listen to a coach, not a parent that is coaching. Your kid to play in a structure, your kid to realize that the program is bigger than he or she. The same parents who complain about LeVar Ball are the same parents who created the system to circumvent that. All those bad things that you hate about LeVar, you're the ones who grew it. You're the ones who demanded it. You demanded for your child because your child wasn't good enough. And you had to have your child get a trophy too. So as we're crushing LeVar Ball, and as people will attack the homeschool system unfairly, and just to full disclosure, my son, I do have a son, and no, he's not homeschooled. He is in a private school, but I understand the homeschool system. I have friends whose kids are being homeschooled, and I've seen and spoke with them on the pros and cons of it, and I would suggest that people get enlightened on it. As far as people using this to skate in athletics, so what? Bryce Harper's dad did something similar. It wasn't exactly the same. He did something similar. It's fine. I had a child when I was still coaching who played for me that was a straight A student that repeated the 8th grade so he could be reclassified. He ended up becoming a Division I starting point guard from his sophomore year to his senior year. You guess what? He was fine. All the predictions of doom and dare, people have been doing this. Before we had the fancy term reclassification, it was common in football. Football used to be the only sport that did it, but people would intentionally hold their kid back. Send them to a private school to repeat the 8th grade and then send them to high school. But we're going to act like LeVar Ball invented it and this makes LeVar Ball the worst parent ever? Come on now. Come on. Stop with the madness. Would I do the same thing? No. But I will say this about the current environment, especially in basketball. The one thing I do like by the true AAU teams, by the way, not the one that's been created so your child could play, the true AAU teams, is that we now see good players at that young age having the ability to play with other good players. And that has made basketball on the college level so much better. It's made basketball on the NBA level so much better. Where people think it's a negative and it's, oh my gosh, it's teaming up. No, 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 no. These players are unselfish enough to play with players as good as them. They share the ball. They put their numbers to the back burner for the team concept. So for the better teams in Nike, EBYL, and some of those other ones that have those sort of players, that is great. They are teaching these kids the right way. If you watch those games, those kids generally play offense, they play defense, they rebound, they play team ball. Now, when you get to some of these other AAU teams where the kids aren't as good and the parents are out there thinking, well, the more points my kids score, that means they'll have a better opportunity, which, by the way, is false, to get a scholarship. That's where you see AAU just break down into just a hodgepodge of bad basketball. But when you look at the good teams and the good kids on those teams, those kids are as unselfish as they come. And then when they get to their high schools, they're unselfish as they come. There are great high schools here in the Washington, D.C. area that kids get Division I scholarships who average 9-10 points a game. They don't average 35 points a game. And those kids have learned to play with kids who are just as good as them. Imagine if someone had taught Allen Iverson that. Allen Iverson is some sort of cult hero, but no one ever could play with him. And then people say, well, they never put anyone by him. Well, you never could put anyone by him. He never, ever, ever accepted the fact that you have to play with guys just as good, if not better than you. It's why he's ringless. I'm glad the NBA has gotten out of that. I'm glad the NBA better players who are willing to sacrifice numbers and or millions of dollars for a chance to win. It's why the NBA is so much better today. And even though those players do not get the just credit, you look at guys like LeBron James and Kevin Durant and those guys who have taken less money, who have left millions on the table for a chance to win a championship, and we want to blame them. We want to bash them. We want to bash this generation. Those aren't the players who have the problem. It's the parents who has the problem. And the next time you want to bash Lavar, ask yourself, are you one of those parents who created Lavar? Because I guarantee you that you are. Keep up with everything with Making the Cut via our website at www.mtcwithmook.com and on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at MTC with Mook.